Kyle Samuels, founder and CEO of Creative Talent Endeavors. Thank you so much for being on the Social Capital Insiders video interview. And we're really, really happy and excited to have you here. And thanks for taking the time.
Happy to be here. Thank you, Chris.
So we honored you as one of our top leaders of the year last year, and we were very happy to do so for being a people-centric leader and really realizing that taking care of people is taking care of business, as we love to say. So tell our viewers and our readers a little bit about what Creative Talent Endeavors does, and I know you've had it for about 9 years now, and you founded it. And why did you start the company, and what do you guys do?
Okay. So why did I start the company? Chris, I'm an only child. I'm an introvert, and I'm weird, right? So long story short, I realized that as an HR practitioner, I spent the last almost 25 years either in HR or executive search. I probably wasn't going to get to the levels that I wanted to in corporate, right? Like I'm not great at like playing the game. And if I don't like something, I'm going to tell you, right? So that's one part. But the other part is I've done many aspects of HR, right? Generalist, little OD work, talent management, but recruitment is the one that I don't know if it's the chicken and the egg where I like it because I'm good at it or I'm good at it because I like it. So that was one part. But the other part is this. I've laid people off, both, individuals on my team and just, working for a big corporation. It's like, hey, guy, you got to lay the help desk off. That's part of your job, right? That's not fun.
Yeah.
In executive search, I would say at least 80% of the people that we talk to are already working. So the worst news I have to say is, hey, Chris, they went with another candidate. It stings a little bit, but you've got a job, so it's okay. Versus like, hey, Chris, we made the decision that you no longer have a job, and you just see that color drop from someone's face, right? So that's why I started the company. And what we do is we do executive search and outplacement. My entrepreneur story was very, I won't say very different, but it was very precipitous in that I was blessed. I was working at Taco Bell as an HR leadership team there. My mentor, who was the chief people officer at the time, we could have very transparent dialogues. I told him that I wanted to open an executive search firm, but I was having fun at Taco Bell. I was being paid well. And so the ROI just wasn't there. It wasn't like, I hate this, I'm running from something, right? Talked for several months. And I was lucky that he's someone, a lot of companies, you tell your big boss that the next thing you want to do is not be there. That's what we call a career limiting opportunity, right? It wasn't the case there. And so after 3 months of conversation, he said, hey, Kyle, we'd be happy to be your first client. And so for those who don't never worked in executive search, besides having infinite money to pay candidates, one of the most powerful things you can have is a client with brand recognition, right? So I could come to you with Taco Bell, and in the 9 years we've existed, there's not a human being alive that said, oh, it sounds interesting. Tell me more about what Taco Bell is and what they do.
Yeah.
But there are a number of even Fortune 1000 companies that make billions of dollars that they're not household names. They might be industrial, et cetera, right? So if you're a passive candidate, you're working, you're excited, and I say, hey, company ABC wants, now you have to say, who is company ABC? How much money are they making? Are they public? Like there's a lot of research. You don't want to necessarily do that. Taco Bell, you know what that is. So you're going to say yes or no. And so my thesis was, if I cannot be successful recruiting for a company that I'm never going to have to explain, a company where I knew everyone at the time from literally the front desk to the CEO, and I helped build and craft the culture, and that's someone saying, hey, man, maybe this isn't the best thing for you because you've been given all these step ups. Luckily, it worked out very well. And so that's how we started CTE.
So tell me a little bit about, how you do what you do, and what distinguishes you or sets you apart when it comes for the type of leaders that you look for and the type of people that you look for to fulfill these roles, because I know you've been very vocal about that.
For sure. So I'm not shooting at them. I'm just being honest, right? So a lot of the larger search firms, it's like the old adage, and this is going to date me when I say the name, but like people used to say back in the day is like, no one ever got fired for hiring IBM, right? So like if you hire IBM, or let's keep it today, McKinsey, and it doesn't go well, you're like, well, oh shucks, boss, that's McKinsey. Who knew they wouldn't work out, right? So there's mitigated risk. But going to a boutique with say 5 people who used to work for McKinsey and McGillicuddy and Associates doesn't work out, now you're like, oh crap, why did I go with this team, right? And so because companies have these brands, they typically, and I've worked at a larger company before, what they typically do is they have curated decades of curated executives. So rather than go out and meet new people, they say, hey, we already know the people you need to hire, right? It's efficient for them because they don't have to do extra work and meet new people. But the problem is that the pool becomes very homogenous. It's whoever knows these people, and they seem to be the same type of people. Now, we absolutely use our networks, and all of our executive search partners, they worked in Fortune 500 companies, they have MBAs, they have wide, vast networks. But we also find new people in every search. And why we do that is we find that stepping out of the status quo brings people new ideas, different learnings, et cetera. And there's a lot of companies, they hire executives because they want innovation. They want to change things, or not necessarily change things, but improve things, even if they're going well. And so one of the things we always tell people is we may have what we call a wild card candidate. So that means someone who, let's say you're looking for a CFO of a cereal company, and we're like, you should hire the CFO from semiconductor manufacturing. You might be like, well, what? Well, we're going to tell you there are reasons why you should hire that person that perhaps another search firm wouldn't have considered. And so one of the most pleasing things, the feedback we get from clients is, wow, working with you guys, we're exposed to talent that we've never seen before. And I love that we're all constantly uncovering new talent to present to our clients.
So let's go to the employee side, the people that you're finding, and your methods to really finding out who they are. We're in an era right now, right, where AI and everything else tends to make people feel like numbers. And we're seeing a lot of talk about AI taking over the hiring process. And you can even see it when you see a company's hiring process and whatnot in place, taking the human being out of the process more and more and more. What do you think about that, and how does it affect how you do what you do?
It's funny. So I literally last week, almost a week ago, I did a presentation at a conference, and it was called, talk was called People Are Greater Than Pewters, like computers, but I like alliteration. So, and the whole idea is that we're in this world where the robots are talking to the robots. You can go to ChatGPT, Chris, and say, hey, Sloan Kettering is looking for a head of oncology research. Make me a resume that makes me the perfect candidate. And it can. And at the same time, the Sloan Kettering has AI in their ATS that's saying, here are the KPIs we need for this, head of medical research or whatever title I made. And so my point is the robots are talking to the robots.
Mm-hmm.
And clients aren't excited. At first, with all the AI recruiting, clients were excited because like, oh, wow, I don't need all these human recruiters and sourcers. I can just have the robot do all my bidding. But here's the problem. I'll give you a quick example. This is a true story. So billion-dollar company was looking for a senior director of HR. And so they programmed their AI to say, only accept people who are currently at director or senior director level. With their thing is, we don't want someone who's too big because we can't afford them and they're going to be bored. We don't want someone who's too junior because they can't do the job, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's what the AI did. It rejected candidates who were VP level, but they had a candidate who was VP level at a company. This company was $1 billion. The person who applied was at like a $450 billion. So they were at the right comp, scale, and scope of the role. They just had the wrong title. Okay. And so AI is yes, sir, we're going to do exactly what you said. It doesn't have the nuance or the discernment of a human being, right? And so especially, and I will say this, for retail and team members, so like in restaurants and like your Walmarts or whatever, I think AI makes a lot of sense. Let's just be honest. These are, minimum wage jobs. And I think a lot of the people who are applying for them, they have several jobs. So for them being able to interview via AI at like 1 a.m. in the morning when they got off their second job, I think that's great. For executives, all the AI stuff is typically behind the scenes, right? Candidates still want human interaction. So whether it's hiring us, a search firm, whether it's using your internal search firm, or whether it's someone who works at your company who can give a referral, I'm finding at the executive level, the relationship aspect is more important than ever. And the reason why is anyone can apply to any job, right? It's very easy. You can go to LinkedIn or Indeed and one click apply to like myriad jobs, right?
Yeah.
But what what clients are finding is, but we're getting a lot of people who aren't appropriate. And so what I've found is they've started to over index on the personal aspect, like who do you know, the relationship. So whether, again, it's a hired gun like us or a
Hmm.
referral. And so what I've been telling people, because like I said, we do outplacement as well, is you need to leverage the people who know, like, and trust you, right? A lot
Hmm.
of people will get excited. So like, for the last 2 years, NVIDIA, OpenAI, they're, oh my gosh, I want Anthropic, all these companies are growing, right? So people are applying. But if no one at NVIDIA knows you and they're having, I don't know, and a job go up and within a week 500 applications, you're just blowing in the wind. And so what I tell people is all the shiny sexy stuff, I know it looks cool, but if there's someone that you actually know at say a GE or a Delta Airlines, I'm just picking random, Fortune 500 companies
Yeah.
that knows, trusts and like you, your your chance of being hired is exponential. I'll give you a real stat from the talk I did last week. Forbes reported that if a company if there's a company referral, right? They have a 50-50 chance. It's a coin flip that they're going to get the job. If you
Wow.
apply just a regular person, you have a 1 in 33 chance. And so what I
Wow.
tell people is,
Yeah.
I'm not saying if you want to work at company X and you don't know anyone there, then shoot, go ahead and apply because you're not going to get the job any other way. But I tell people when you see a job, first see, wait a minute, do I know anyone there? Do I have any connections? And whether it's going through the employee referral portal that a lot of companies have, right? Or just saying, oh, I know Chris and Chris knows Tom. So let me ask Chris if he'll put a word in. That goes way further, right? And so I tell people applying for 100 jobs a day isn't really doing anything. It feels like you're doing something, but you're not. But
Hmm.
taking that same
Yeah.
time to be
Yeah.
strategic about the relationships you have, the people you know, and then nurturing those and going out, it's a long game, but it's going to pay off way more than just blindly applying for jobs. And you're more likely to get feedback. It's going to make you feel better because one of the first things that we tackle, and I feel like I'm going to diatribe, I'm going to stop, but one of the first things we tackle when we do our outplacement is mindset. Do you know, and hopefully you don't, but for someone who's been working at a company, been a high performer, and they get that talk that you don't have a job anymore, it can be crushing. You haven't interviewed externally in a decade plus. You were a high performer, but they decided to get rid of your division. Not because of your work, it's just we don't sell socks anymore. We're getting rid of the socks division. And so it does a lot to your self-esteem. So we talk about that. And then getting the constant rejections from strangers on the internet doesn't help. But if you work with your network, your community, the people that know, like, and trust you, they will go crazy trying to find you a job because they care. A random person who is hiring for a job, they want to fill the job with the best person as soon as possible, but they don't necessarily care about you because they don't know you.
So you said a couple of really powerful things there. First one, mindset, and the mindset of job seekers who maybe haven't been in that market for a while. How do you deal with that? And what do you do? Are there specific things that you do when somebody comes your way to help with their mindset if they're in that situation?
For sure. And I want to tell this to anyone watching who is a candidate or looking. This is I would say this is even the worst than the financial crisis, 2008, 2009, in the way that companies are treating candidates, right? I know in real life, for people who are friends in real life, not something I saw on LinkedIn, I'm thinking of two people who in the same week last year told me that two Fortune 500 companies, the last thing they heard from them was, you've gone through the final rounds. We like you. We're making an offer. Both of them waited about a week, didn't hear anything. Finally said, let me check in. Company number one said, oh, we lost the head count. Sorry, I thought someone told you.
Oh, oh,
Company said, we hired someone else and they apologized. They said, we thought you got the note. Because a lot of HES is once you put the thing in to place it, everyone else gets it automated. Hey, Chris, thank you. Unfortunately, we decided to go with another thing.
oh my
And so it's
God.
like, again, these are people who last thing they were told is we're going to make an offer, not you're moving to the next stage. Right.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
so
God.
I kind of explained the macro, issues that are happening to let you know that it's not you. I had a lady, Chris, in one of our sessions. She was like, Kyle, you're doing like this, right? What? She said, I printed them out. These are the last 9 years I've been exceeds expectations at my company. I can't get past the first round interview.
Oh,
And she
wow.
was like, I'm starting to think that I was just a personality hire. And they're like, and I was like, well, here's the good news. No company is paying you hundreds of $1,000s just because they like to have you around. But this is the case that we're in right now. And so then we started to break down. I said, with these companies rejecting you, how did you go in? Just applied online. Okay. And so that's when I go back to it's about who knows, trusts, and likes you, relying on them. Because a lot of people too, they were 2020 to 2022 or so, maybe 2023, war for talent. Like companies were like, oh my gosh, here's a Peloton to keep you here, and we'll pay for DoorDash. Please don't leave. Oh my God, because right. Then it
Yeah.
stopped, and as the pendulum went from over here for the candidates to over here for the companies. Companies aren't people, but people work in companies, and companies have memories that there were people who took their job without quitting their first job because of all the remote stuff, right? There were people who said, oh, yeah, once COVID's over, I'll move to Texas. And then COVID was over, they say, yeah, I'm not going to move to Texas, right? And so it's kind of swung very harshly to the right where companies are like, we have the jobs. We see Amazon's laying off 40,000. This one's laying off 50,000. It's a
Wow.
buyer's market, and they proceed that way, right? And so that's the mindset. We just let people know, first off, it's not you. The second part is, the lady who was waving this, I was like, so read some of the things that they said. It's like, oh, I was like, so I want you to remember, you are that person, right? You have the accomplishments, you have the KPIs, you've done the work. You lost your job because it wasn't your individual fault. A lot of people got laid off, right? And so then it's about like building the back up to remember how good they are, get that confidence in them, because desperation makes you apply for 100 jobs a day because you feel like I have to do something and I have to move
Yeah.
quickly, right? But when you have more of that confidence, you can be strategic and say, hold on, who are the people that left the company I was at before I got laid off that I had great relationships with? Where are they at? Let me reach out to them and start to rekindle things, right? And so we start to build people up in there, just to let them know that, again, no, I'm not gonna lie, if you do a horrible interview, yeah, it's you. But if you're being treated that way, where companies are telling you they're going to hire you and then they do that, it is not you, my friend. It is them. And so we teach them how to kind of play around it. And again, I keep reinforcing this because I want anyone who is looking for a job to understand this. It is about, I can show you better than I can, or I'll tell you. As a recruiter, there have been times throughout my career where we'll have a candidate who's about to get the job. And let's say they're 95 of 100 in the KPI, right? Same industry, got the education, da, da, da. And then the hiring manager says, oh, whoa, wait a minute. Chris, who used to work for me, actually said he will move to New York and we're going to hire Chris. Now, Chris may have 80 out of 100, but I know Chris is going to work his butt off. I know Chris is smart and strategic, and he can learn this industry. So we're going to go with Chris, right? And so that is the power of having relationships and someone who can vouch for you. That will most times trump someone who is more qualified on paper. I'd say 9 out of 10 times.
Mm. Mm. So you're saying something that's terrifying when you talk about the state of hiring, right? And so there's this interesting schism that's potentially occurring where, we find a lot of companies, and we're so happy and grateful to see a lot of companies moving in this people-centric direction to take care of their employees. But that begs the question, are they also taking care of their prospective employees, meaning the people they haven't hired yet? Possibly not so much. Maybe that element is getting overlooked in this economy where, like you said, it's a buyer's market, right? And prospective employees are getting treated this way, and it's like I said, it's terrifying to hear that. So thank God for people like you that are trying to get people out there, and you've been doing this for so long, and not just in your own company but in your career. So people should take what you say practically as the Bible. And the what you're saying, how do you integrate that into your system and your process, do you have a way of not just helping people with their mindset, but helping them, maybe escape those crazy odds that you're talking about of being 1 in 33 and being more of the, getting the 50% chance? Do you do a lot of, coaching to get them to actually reach out in, maybe unusual ways?
Not necessarily unusual, but I will tell you this, and this I think is important. So pro tip, we charge for this, guy, so this is a freebie.
Yeah.
One of the things people talk about, do you use AI? Oh yeah, I use AI for my resume and stuff like that. Cool, but it's like in math, it's necessary but not sufficient. It's table stakes. So what I tell people is you need to use AI strategically. So I'm gonna give you a true example. We're doing a program with a lady, and we're real time. I like to show stuff, right? And so I said, hey, name a company that you're really interested in right now. She said, company ABC. I said, okay, give me a second. Pulled up her resume, uploaded it to ChatGPT, use the paid one. Just trust me, you're investing in your career. You can spend the $20 a month, or Gemini, whatever you use, but use the paid one. And so I said, hey, this woman is interested in this company. Review this resume to see if there are any connections there. It says, well, she and the co-founder both worked at McKinsey. I said, hey, did you know? She said, yeah. I said, but like, would he know? Yeah. I said, so why haven't you reached out to him? She's like, he's this big, super successful CEO. He wouldn't care about me, da, 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 da. And I said, here's the thing. If you write him a polite note saying, hey, I remember you fondly from our days at McKinsey. Congratulations on what you built in this amazing company. I'm actually interested in it. Would you be willing to connect me with someone I could talk to learn more? The worst case scenario is he doesn't read it because he's too busy and he just sees and says, whatever. I can guarantee what is not going to happen is he's not going to say, get me HR. Hey, if this lady who wrote me the super nice complimentary email ever applies for a job, no, because I'm a big time CEO and how dare she? It's not going to happen. So people, and I get it because again, you've lost your job in most cases. We also work with people who are actively working and they just, like one lady, she's been in the same company for 12 years. She's like, I want to make a move this year. I haven't interviewed externally in a while. I want coaching, right? Cool. But if you've lost your job, that can hurt. You've been rejected, that can hurt. And so I think a lot of times people let their ego block their blessings, right? Like, and by the way, this lady was super qualified, amazing resume, et cetera. They both worked at McKinsey. So like, it's McKinsey. It's not like she's some rube off the road, right?
Yeah.
But she still was so concerned about rejection, she didn't want to even reach out, right? And so by default of being an entrepreneur, I'm a salesperson. It's not something that comes naturally to me, but shoot or shoot. And so, no, I'm serious. So I was like, to get to what your original question was, it's getting people to use all this great technology, but the right way, right? We go to schools, we work at companies, we have a career. People go out and do things. There's almost always going to be some overlap. And so what I tell people is, if you write a polite note, the worst case is you don't hear anything back, which means you're in the same boat as if you didn't do anything. So why not do it, right? And I get, again, it's the rejection. What I tell people is if you're going to people where you have some commonality, you literally knew them, or maybe you went to the same school and you don't know them, but you're like, hey, like I went to Purdue. Do you know how many messages I sent out that say boiler up? Just because I want to quickly let you know we have something in common. I'm going to read this email, right? And so telling people to do the same thing and work out to the network. And the other part is people feel ashamed. Oh, I'm not working. I'm embarrassed to do it. I'm like, how else are you going to get a job?
Yeah.
Unless people know you're in the market, right? And so and again, I'm not saying it to make fun of people. I totally understand, but I just want people to understand there's no big black box that corporations use of people who write nice notes asking for a little assistant or assistants are asking to connect with someone. And so again, leverage the people who know, trust, and like you. And one thing I'll say real quick, I love to give this example. You're in a conference, you're in an elevator, it stops for 5 minutes. You're in there with Mark Zuckerberg and his security detail. You start talking, and he's like, oh, I love Taekwondo as well. You start talking, elevator comes, he's in a good mood. Here's my card. It was great meeting you, Chris. 10 minutes later, he doesn't know who you are, Chris. Like he's making $1 billion decisions. He could change the direction of your whole family by giving you an executive job at Meta and all that stuff. But he doesn't have at 5 minutes. Why? Like he's got a lot of stuff to do. But
Yeah.
let's say there's someone at Meta who worked for you and now they're an associate marketing director. You're the best boss they ever had. Believe it or not, they're more likely to get you that job at Meta because they're going to be going to HR saying, hey, I put Chris in the employee referral portal. He hasn't heard back, guys. What's going on
Mm.
with Chris? You know, he's got other options. What's going on? They are going to be your advocate, right? So in that scenario, if you're besties with Mark Zuckerberg and your besties with the person who worked for you, Mark Zuckerberg's the one who's going to change things. But if he doesn't really know you and this person knows, trusts, and likes you, even if they're not a super executive, you'd be surprised how much influence they have. And I'll tell you, as someone who has run corporate talent acquisition for Yum Brands, anyone who came through in our team, we got an alert and it was like, okay, we're not going to hire someone just because they were a referral, but we always got back to them in a quick manner. And I mandated that because I told you this other statistics about referral, they last longer, they perform well for various reasons, you know them, et cetera. But what I was going to say is this, what you don't want is the referrals to dry up because if I refer people and now all my friends are like, hey, man, yeah, your company never called me back. I'm not referring anyone again. Now my friends are kind of annoyed at me. They got all hopeful. And so you want to keep that pipeline going. So again, it doesn't have to be a super executive who is your referral. It could be anyone at that company. But that is a way to stand out from just applying blindly. Because trust me, in most companies, you get an alert when you come through the employer portal. If you go to the normal site, you know, your miles may vary.
Well, thank you for sharing that. It's so incredibly valuable, and there may be a couple of people that get a job just because of what you just said. So,
I hope
thank
so.
you for sharing that. And a couple of things that I just really love that you're really drilling down on there, and and just you continue to push, which I love, is that you're focusing on realizing the human worth, right? The mindset. Realize your human worth. Don't get down on yourself. You have value, even though you're out of a job. It doesn't make you less valuable. Realize your human worth. And then the second thing is to realize the human value of your connections at the end of the day, right? There's that old saying, right? It's said as a negative sometime. It's about who you know, not what you know, right? And I always used to say, why is that a bad thing? Who you know? I mean, that's part of our human family and our human connections. And that sounds like something you're definitely, validating is to maximize those human connections that you have in whatever way you can in that job search, and drive that home as much as you can. And I think some people do you find that some people maybe feel like, oh, I shouldn't do that? They're going to think I'm being rude or whatever to ask for that kind of referral.
No, I think I tell people it depends how you do it and if you do it in the right way, right? And so one of the examples I like to talk about is this. Let's say there's someone you used to work with 5 years ago. They're at a company you want to apply to. You haven't talked to them since they left your employer and they haven't reached out to you. Then I'm like, hey, you get to be the first one to get the ball rolling and reach out. Now, if there's someone who's like, hey, Chris, I miss working with you, buddy. Let's go get some coffee. And you've been, no, leave me alone. Then I would leave that person alone because now you're coming when you need something, right? But
Yeah.
again, let me ask you, Chris, if you hear about someone in your network that you like that is looking for a job, don't you immediately start racking your brain thinking like, how can I help? Like, who do I know?
Yeah.
Da, da, da.
Yeah.
That's how most people are. We want to help, right? And so again, not everyone's going to get back to you because we're all busy, but you can't take that personal. That's something I had to learn, right? I always tell people I feel qualified talking about what it's like to look for a job, even though I'm an entrepreneur, because put it this way, I want Costco. I was looking at something in my office. I want Costco to hire my firm to do work for them, right? I want them to pay me money, not as an employee, but as a vendor. This person wants Costco to hire them as a VP of marketing, right? Costco has many options in both cases,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like, I understand that I need to present myself as the best solution in certain ways. And I also understand that I'm not going to get an account with Costco just like writing to an HR person I don't know, hey, I've got a search firm, blah, blah, blah. I would actually look for someone I know at Costco. Doesn't matter if they're in
Oh,
HR or not.
okay.
Say, hey, is there any way, could you introduce me to this HR person? Listen, and also I tell people, you have value even if you're not working. So for me, sometimes one of the ways I might get into try to build a relationship with the company is like, I'm happy to do an hour webinar on what's going on in the talent market for your hiring manager or something like that, just to show the value I have. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're someone who's working and you got laid off, it's not like as soon as your employer leaves you, all that knowledge goes out. You still have it. So that's another, we're still an expert. If I'm the CFO of a $2 billion company and then I lose my job, let's say we got acquired, everything I've done is still valid. They just said, hey, big bank, take little bank, right? And
Yeah.
so why wouldn't you offer that knowledge to people? That's a way to build a relationship. And you're not coming with your hand out, you're coming offering something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like today they announced that Bob Iger just stepped down from Disney, right? He doesn't have a job. Ask me if I would take a meeting with Bob Iger, despite him not having a job. So you see, now I picked the highest level to make an example, but
Sure.
it
Yeah.
scales down. It scales
Yeah.
down. You still have things of value to add.
I love that. And I love the fact that you're really zeroing in on that human value and making people realize their human value in so many ways, shapes, and forms. And you do the same thing in looking for work and looking for your next clients. Is there is there any other selection process that you go through when deciding what companies that you'll take on? I mean, obviously you can't work for every company out there. I mean, you'd love to have all the business in the world, I'm sure. But do you go through some selective process as to deciding who you'll help?
Yes, one of the things I learned early is listen, all money is not good money, and I think
Mm,
candidates should look at it the same way, right? So there are signs when you are working with the company, just like there are signs. So I say dating is like recruiting, right? And so I tell people, if he's not opening the door on the first date, what do you think is going to happen when you get married? Like this is the time to show up and show out. So like if you're interviewing with a company and they're dropping interviews at the last moment or not, like what do you think is going to happen when you're actually there and you're locked in, right?
mm,
So for me, if client is, hey, oh, can we just change the way you do your billing? One of the things I'll say is, do you ask Corn Ferry to do that? Then why would you ask me to do that, right? And so but it's very telling because if someone is coming at, and listen, we all want to get the most that we can get at the least, whatever. But if someone is coming so specifically focused on cost and not quality, then that's a signal to me that we do the search. Oh, I don't want to pay for this, but this is what the market is.
Yeah.
Oh, you can find someone. And it's like, I don't want to do a search the last 6 months where we're just waiting for someone who is either um, only taking the job because they have no recourse, right?
Yeah.
Or it's like it almost never ends because you have a champagne taste and a beer budget, right? And
Right.
so
Right.
the way you interact with me and talking about that in the very beginning is going to let me know how it's going to be during the whole process and if it's going to work.
And have you had clients where you've actually sensed that their way of treating prospective employees was just not right or not fitting with what you thought would be, how you think they should be treated? Has that ever happened?
Has it? So I'll think of something that um that I think about um not in so this
You
somewhat
don't have
specific.
to mention any names.
No, of course not, of course, of course. But so and this is big. So backdoor references. That's basically when, so typically what happens is like, all right, we want to hire Chris. Here's 3 references, people he worked for, blah, blah, blah. Hey, Kyle, how was Chris as an employee? And da, 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 right? That's kind of the traditional once you're going to make an offer.
Right.
But some people like to do what we call backdoor references, which is like, hey, I know someone who used to work over there with Chris. Let me get the skinny on Chris.
Oh,
There are 2 reasons, main reason I like that. Number one, you don't know if that person is really being objective.
yeah.
Because maybe Chris was great at his job. I just didn't like him.
Yeah.
So am I going to be magnanimous enough to say, we didn't really, have a lot of what's what I'm looking for? We didn't gel.
Rapport.
But he's fantastic. Yeah, rapport. But he's fantastic. I'm like, not my cup of tea, and leave it at that, right? And again, if you know me and like me, know, like, trust, I might have just sunk your battleship, Chris. Right?
Yeah.
Just by that.
Yeah.
Here's the other reason that I think is even more pernicious, especially if I'm working. Why are you telling other people that I'm interviewing?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you tell someone that I'm interviewing, I don't know who they're going to gossip around, or even if they give me a positive review.
Yeah.
Can slip out. You shouldn't be doing that, right? And so those are some things that whenever a client says it, I said, we don't do them, and I don't recommend them for those reasons, right? And it also, like, and one of the things that helps candidate, or that if anything else gets clients to understand that, I was like, if something happens to them, they can sue you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are that's one of the things that and I get why people want it, because it's like, well, of course someone's only going to give me their best referrals, that I want to get the real deal, especially if the referrals are their former employers, like people who worked above them they reported to. That's good. That's what you want, and you're going to know that it's true, and there's some verisimilitude to it. That being said, I tell anyone who does referrals, first off, make sure, because I've had people they haven't told the referral, so they're like, what? What? Oh, so like, it's a surprise, right? So that's not good. Number two, make sure they're going to be the advocate that you think they are. So what I tell people to say is, hey, I'm interviewing with the company. I want to put you down as a referral. Can you give me a positive reference? And if the person hems and haws, or, well, I think, you know what I'm saying, if they're anything but effusive, like, absolutely, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Find someone else.
Well, it sounds like you are doing an amazing job of upholding human value and dignity in this world of hiring that has become challenging. You've actually told me a couple of things that kind of scared the bejesus out of me about ways that some of these companies are doing it. But so it's very obvious that we need more and more companies and more people like you in this industry to retain the people-centric element that's so important to economic sustainability and prosperity for all in general. So listen, I could talk to you for another hour about what we could do and how we could do it to change the world of hiring, but it sounds like you're doing a phenomenal job, and we thank you so much for taking time to share a little bit more of this with our readers and our viewers, and we hope to have you back again, and maybe even have you write a few things for us, so that maybe this industry could change little by little, and maybe one day the entire industry will be like yours and the way you do your business.
Oh, thank you, my friend. I appreciate that.
All right, Kyle. Well, hey, take care, and we'll talk again soon, okay?
All right. See you later, Chris. Thank you.